Are ultra-rich leftists seeking to atone for their guilt by paying higher taxes to Uncle Sam? Well, according to one of my next guests, the answer to that is yes. But my other guest is one of those ultra-rich. He wants to give more of his money to the government. Very interesting. We have Mike Lapham. He's co-founder and director at Responsible Wealth. We have Dan Mitchell, senior fellow at the Cato Institute. Welcome, gentlemen. Mr. Lapham, let me begin with you. I read your story with great interest. You're sort of an heir to this paper and pulp company that was started by, if I get this right, your great-great-grandfather, if I have that right. 1865. Now, I pointed out earlier in the show that during that era, there were no income taxes, and there were no capital gains or inheritance taxes. So I want to ask you, would you today have your fortune if your great-great-grandfather had to pay the kind of taxes that you are recommending?
Yeah, I think I would. We've had these Bush tax cuts in place for 8 years. Look, George Bush came into office in 2001. He was facing a $5.1 trillion surplus projected for 10 years. And what did he do with that? He decided to put most of that into tax breaks, most of which went to upper income folks. Over close to 50% went to just the top 5% alone. And wealthy people have been on a tax holiday for 8 years. It's time to turn those around. They've cost us too much. They didn't make any sense when they were put into place. They make even less sense now.
All right.
How much sense does it make to tax wealthy people who are getting money from investment income at 15% when other people are paying 25, 33%?
Yeah, I understand.
Doesn't make any sense.
50%. I just want to make this point, though. I'm going to quarrel with your numerical analysis. There's all sorts of newspaper reports. 50%, 47% of people who file for taxes do not even pay the income tax at all. And the look, this is an IRS number. And the top 1% are actually paying 40% of the taxes, and the top 10% or thereabouts are paying like 75% of the taxes. So
that's not an IRS number.
My point to you is the rich, so-called, and by the way, I like rich people because they finance new businesses and new inventions that hire all kinds of workers and make America prosperous. They're already paying virtually the full boat, sir. That's the part I don't understand.
The report that came out today, the AP story that came out today, I would consider an insult to the people in the bottom 50% who are paying quite a bit of taxes. They're paying their payroll tax, their Medicaid, Medicare. They are paying sales tax, gasoline tax. They are working hard.
No, that may be true, but they're not paying any income taxes. And I think that's exactly wrong for this country.
One tax that we're talking about.
Income tax is the largest tax in the United States. Income tax is I beg your pardon. It is a factoid. It's just short of $1 trillion. Dan Mitchell, come on in here. First of all, Mr. Lapham did not answer my question. His great-great-grandfather, who founded this wood paper pulp operation, didn't have to pay any income taxes or capital gains taxes or inheritance taxes. Now, Dan, should we punish people for success or not? Where are you going on this?
No, I think your point is exactly right. When we became a rich country in the 1800s, for that matter, the same thing is true of Western Europe, there were no income taxes. These things came into place around the turn of the century, a little bit later, 1913 in our case. And ever since then, politicians have been pushing higher tax rates. The income taxes finance more government spending. And of course, now the politicians want to add a VAT on top of that. And when I see somebody who's rich, who wants to pull up the ladder of opportunity and make it harder for the rest of us to get rich by putting in these high tax rates, it drives me crazy. We want more opportunity in America, and having high tax rates, yeah, the rich people have all the lawyers and lobbyists and accountants. They'll figure out how to survive, but I want to become rich someday myself, and I want my neighbors to become rich, and high tax rates are like a ceiling that we're all going to bump our head against.
You know, Mr. Lapham, the question I always have on this, and I don't want to be disrespectful. I respect your point of view, much as I may disagree with it. But I do want to ask you this. You were fortunate enough and blessed enough to inherit your wealth, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that. America's a free country. I'm all for it. But the reality is, for those people who are not rich, why not reward them with greater success in income and capital gains and whatnot on an after-tax basis. That's the basic incentive system. That's the problem I have. I don't want to make the rich richer necessarily. I'm not against that. I want to make the non-rich rich. But if we tax them heavily, if they cross a $200,000 income line, they will not get rich. They will not have the savings and the investment to do what your great-great-grandfather did.
No one's talking about pulling up the ladder. We're talking about raising taxes on people above $250,000 income. Mr. Mitchell is off base when he says, look, there have been taxes in place for the entire last century. People made a lot of fortunes. People paid taxes. People have paid the estate tax and passed it on. When capital gains rates have been higher in the past, people did very well. Under Clinton, the economy grew very well when tax rates were higher. It's just disingenuous to say this stuff. Our members understand that they have done well. Their incomes are higher, their wealth is higher because of the contributions of a lot of people in this society, and they recognize that they should pay a higher rate. People at the top of our economy with higher income, higher wealth, it's time for them to pay a higher rate. They're going to our tax calculator at responsiblewealth.org and figuring out their Bush tax cuts and pledging to give them away.
By the way,
and I encourage you to try it.
By the way,
plug in your income and see how much you save.
75% of the Bush tax cuts went to the non-rich, and that's basically what Mr. Obama is preserving. I just want to note that it is not true that Bush's tax cuts all went to the rich. Only the top quarter, 75%. I mean, that's why Obama is carrying through on that. Dan Mitchell,
I didn't say that they all went to the rich.
Dan Mitchell, Mr. Lapham says you're off base in a variety of ways. You care to respond, Dan?
Well, there's no question people get rich at all points in American history, even when we had high tax rates, even during World War II. I'm sure some people got rich when we had top tax rates of more than 90%. Right. But 2 points I want to make. Number one, the tax rate on the rich is not 15%. That's a double layer of taxation on top of income that was already taxed at 35 or 39.6. So you want to measure double taxation. Warren Buffett makes that mistake, and Mike's making that mistake. The other point I want to make is, I invite Mike, give all your money to Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid if you really think they're going to spend it correctly. But don't drag the rest of the country into that private hell of bigger government and higher tax rates.
Isn't there a Treasury website where you can make a voluntary tax contribution?
Yeah, I listed that website. I had it linked in the blog I did at the Cato at Liberty blog.
All right, I got to leave it there, gentlemen. I got to leave it there.
I think your guests should check with an accountant about how the system actually works.
I got to leave it there. Mike Lapham,
just not accurate.
Thank you very, very much. Dan Mitchell, thank you very much. Me, I loved it when we had no income tax in America.